then. All right. Well, I'm David Burton with University of Missouri Extension, and this is sort of a bonus session or an extra session of Neighboring 101. And we're gathering together some of the great participants from past years of Missouri Good Neighbor Week, really people who have led in countywide efforts or city efforts. And really, our topic of discussion today is um, what what they found to be successful in their cities and maybe what they're planning in the future to help promote Missouri Good Neighbor Week and what impact they've seen from that. And hopefully that gives everybody some ideas of how to proceed, not just people on the call, but people watching as well. And I think the best place to start is with introductions and who's on the Zoom meeting. So again, I'm David Burton. I'm in Springfield, Missouri. That's Greene County. And who's next? Melissa, you want to introduce
Sure.
yourself there? Sure.
Hi, I'm Melissa Hart, and I'm the Assistant Director of Public Information and Civic Engagement for the City of Springfield.
And Melissa, the neighborhood news publication that you put out in Springfield is fantastic.
Thank
Uh,
you.
uh, I'll twist Cora's arm. I would love to be able to enter that in the NUSA contest for publications. And I'm just
Sure.
saying on the record here,
Mhm.
we will pay the entry fee
Oh, okay.
because
Well, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
I think it's that important, and we need to showcase the great work you're doing because it really is a standout publication.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really enjoy producing it, and we work with all of the residents of the registered neighborhood associations in Springfield to produce it. And so I'm almost not even necessary anymore as an editor because the quality of the content that I get from the neighbors. So
Well, that's pretty awesome. That's a
yeah,
testament to the neighborhoods, isn't it?
it is.
Well, glad you're on here, Melissa.
Yeah.
Elaine, you want to introduce yourself? And Elaine, you're on mute.
I
There you
have
go.
to unmute me. I had to unmute me. I'm Elaine Campbell, and I am from Houston, Missouri, though I live 17 miles out on a farm. But I've worked with the city of Houston and also taught school at Houston for a long time. So I feel like that's my hometown and where I go. And for the last 15 years, we've been doing a Good Neighbor project that started out small and really grew. And during Good Neighbor Week, we, as volunteers, all get together and we hand out roses to people in town. And last year was 3,000. Year before last, we got a grant to help with 5,000. And uh, we have sponsors that pay for the roses. And when you come and pick up a dozen roses, you keep one and then you take the other 11 and you give it to 11 people in town, and it even goes Summersville and Raymondsville outside of town. And when you hand to them, like you hand it to David, and you say, I appreciate all the work that you have done with Good Neighbor, but you hand it to someone and you tell them what you appreciate about them this year. So it's not just like it's, oh, just, well, for some people maybe, but it's not just like give them a rose and go, but we spread 3,000 times throughout the city. Then we also had a little tag 2 years ago that we had a movie afterwards. We showed Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and we've shown the movie Up. And last year in the Roses, our community betterment had little $10 gift certificates on 10 of them if you came back to the florist. But we have done this for about 15 years, and everybody just is right. When you hand a rose out and you say, I appreciate you taking care of my dog while I was going on vacation, or I appreciate you being my neighbor to do something that week. Every year you kind of choose 11 different people than you did the year before. It depends on what happens that year. But we also took our project and presented it at NUSA last year, and we won the award for Good Neighbor Week or whatever it was. So we've really enjoyed it, and we have a good time. And our town, it just gives an uplift and all over town. Houston's a town of 2,000, but it goes out into the county. So there's a lot of people that
It,
a lot of
it,
places just take 3,000 or 5,000 roses.
yes, it goes far and wide. Yes, the award was Neighborhood Program of the Year for
Yes.
social revitalization. They always do one on social and they do one on physical improvements. And that was for the whole United States. I said you set the bar pretty high with volunteer levels and participation levels. And every one of those roses is individually wrapped and has a nice tag on it with your sponsors and Good Neighbor Day. And it's a really sweet way to be an encouragement to others. Love it. Well, you certainly have a lot of experience of keeping a program like that going for quite a while. So we want to learn from your experience on that for sure. Let's see, we're still doing introductions. So Melissa, I think I see Melissa here.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Melissa Harmer. I'm the communications director at the city of Raymore. We're just outside of Kansas City and population of almost 26,000 now. We are the fastest growing city in the state for the second year in a row. And way back in like 2017, we were the fastest. And anyway, so fast growing.
Yeah,
Last year was our first year to participate. It was kind of we didn't have much time from getting the direction from our mayor, but we did do a proclamation. We already had some community events scheduled that week anyway, so we kind of rolled the Good Neighbor Week into those events as well. And we were actually a runner-up for our city size. So
yeah, and a great first effort. And I think you had you had some organization to what you put together. Didn't you? Do you have a committee or some people that worked with
uh,
you?
it was me and my community engagement coordinator, Alex Garcia. So
Okay.
we worked together just we put some signs out throughout our parks, encouraging people to participate. And we went on our local retirement communities morning television show. We put out press releases. We did share a lot out of it. And then once we had the official notification that we were a runner-up, we did tout that also in our community magazine and on our website and all that too.
Yeah. I still say the most difficult part of this is the reporting aspect of it, right? Because I know people would have seen your flyers and signs. There were people that did things as a result that you never heard about, that never reported back. That's the challenge is being able to track all that impact and who did what. So I'm sure your impact was beyond what we could even measure at the time. And there's sometimes that I hear things a year later from Good Neighbor Week that people have done. They never reported it. Um, so I know our numbers are an underestimate of what's really going on. So appreciate your jumping in last year and doing that effort citywide, and excited to hear what maybe you have cooking for this year. And we'll get to that here in just a little bit. Who else we got? Tina. Uh,
Yeah,
please
hi
introduce it.
everyone.
Hi, Tina.
Yeah, I'm Tina Urich, and I'm the director of Clay County Senior Services up here in Laura's region, Liberty, Gladstone. We are funded by the Senior Services Levy Fund. 55 counties in Missouri have a senior service fund, similar to maybe the mental health fund or the developmental disabilities fund that counties pass.
Mm,
So I really like this idea because I think it engages and addresses social isolation, depression, and that sort of thing with older adults. Um, we also were involved in partnering with our municipalities in Clay County, which there are 6 major municipalities: Gladstone, Excelsior Springs, Liberty, Smithville, Kearney, and North Kansas City, in partnering with them to do communities for all ages, which is something that municipalities start to embed, looking at all their policies through a lens of aging, but also what's good for all ages.
yeah.
Our mom pushing a you know a stroller to somebody trying to navigate curb cutouts and things like that. That's just one example. And Excelsior Springs, Laura, uh, is at our gold level of communities for all ages. There's different levels. This was sponsored by our Mid America Regional Council, which is our regional planning commission, and it's also where our area agency on aging lands in the region. So I'm interested because this is our 20th year, and I thought, gosh, this could be kind of a neat thing to partner with our cities in conjunction of our 20th year. But also, I just think it's a neat idea. So I'm looking forward to chatting with Laura after this meeting to see what we can do. And I
Well,
think other counties across Missouri would be interested in this as well that have the senior levy fund. Most of them are, small counties. So,
yes, yeah.
um, I grew up in Crocker, Missouri, which the gal from Houston might know Crocker, and
Hmm.
I went to school at Missouri State University. So, I'm a Missourian at heart.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad to have you on here, Tina, and glad to have made the connection. You're right. Senior centers, I think, um, are a great connection for this type of event and holiday. Lots of opportunities here for sure. I know our county extension councils around the state have been heavily involved. I think we have 114 councils, and last year about 80 of those participated and and did some really great work from service projects to really neighboring outreach. We can talk about some examples later, but there's certainly a list of some things that they have done. I'm glad to provide a list to you if that helps generate some ideas.
Oh, great.
You mentioned Laura. Let's just jump on to Laura for her introduction. Are you
Hi,
back on?
Lauren
Hi.
Mines.
Yeah.
I'm the neighborhood specialist for the city of Excelsior Springs. And so are we kind of sharing what we have done for Missouri Good Neighbor Week or what
Yeah,
we're
just
hoping to do?
a little
Okay.
bit. We haven't, then we'll start talking about the future, but what you've tried in the past a
Okay.
little bit.
So last year we did, we wanted to do National Night Out, but you have to do National Night Out on the night that they indicate, and it's just too hot. So we created our own version of National Night Out and did it the same week as Missouri Good Neighbor Week, and that we called it our Excelsior Springs Night Out Against Crime. And we just had a block party in our downtown area where the police station is, and the first responders were kind of the hosts and celebrities for the night. We had Touch a Truck, we had a shaved ice food truck, and we had the secretaries from the police department had cotton candy and popcorn. The Masons group came and did the chip registration. We had a donut eating contest and a dunk tank and all that kind of fun block party type stuff. So we're doing that again this year, but it was our first time out. It wasn't bad. Now that we've got one under our belt, I have a bigger team feeding into it this year, and I've got some really good ideas.
I
What's
think
the
you're,
date of that going to be, Laura?
I'm sorry,
What is the date? Do you
September
have
27th.
September
And
27th?
yep, that's when we're doing it this year. And we're gonna have lots of our nonprofits have booths or tables. And somebody had the idea of doing a scavenger hunt that is solving a crime. And so they're gonna create some kind of crime that's happened, and the kids or the people have to solve it by going around to every single booth and getting a clue. And and the first one to come back solving the crime gets ice cream or something. We'll have to figure that part out. But yeah, Tina, if you all want to have a booth or a table at our event, we'd love to have you.
Great.
Laura,
more-
what's the name of your event?
Excelsior Springs Night Out Against Crime.
Okay, thanks.
And it's nothing against National Night Out. I love that idea. We really wanted to do National Night Out, but you have to do it the first Tuesday in August. Well, in the Kansas City area, it's usually 102 degrees on the first Tuesday in August. And so when we started planning it, everybody's like, it's just going to be too hot. Well, they have an alternate date in October that you can do if for some reason you have bad weather or you can't do the August date. Well, the alternate date was our homecoming. So we couldn't do that either. So we just created our own, and they won't let you use their brand. You can't use their logo. You can't use their brand unless you use their dates. So if you can do National Night Out, I highly encourage it because they have a lot of resources. And this way, since we do our own, we can line it up with Missouri Good Neighbor Week, and it's part of our festivities for the week.
yeah. And I think there's a lot of synergy and media attention around those things during that week. not just statewide, but regionally as well, and um, helps put a nice spotlight on Missouri
Yeah.
statewide, collectively. So, and Excelsior Springs was one of the most neighborly cities last year. Um, and that's really based on kind of a uh, formula that we have used that's kind of behind the screen a little bit. But it is based on those reported acts of kindness during the week or neighborliness. It's based on the number of nominations that come in from a city for most engaged neighbor, with a bonus point if you have a winner or two from your city. Um, there's also points for cities that do proclamations, cities that have an organized effort campaign. Just the fact they did something collectively and organized, we thought was noteworthy, worthy of points, just because not everything gets reported back. And I think there was another measurable item in there that's all um, weighted, direct acts of kindness versus indirect were weighted differently a little bit. And that formula then calculates things based on the cities where things take place. And that's what got us to our four winners in the four different size categories that are set up by the Missouri Municipal League. And those size categories will remain again this year. But Excelsior Springs was one of those last year, and great job on that effort. Who
We
have I?
took
Who
one of
have
your
I?
ideas for this year too. We've got the Mayor's Block Party Challenge happening this year.
Yes,
So thank
and
you for that idea.
kind of throughout the year, but maybe a lot of effort, a lot of block parties during that week, perhaps. What do you think? Maybe.
I possibly, we've already had 7 and we started,
Wow.
our mayor did the challenge from Easter to Halloween. He challenged the city to have 50 block parties between Easter and Halloween. And we've got a reporting system on our website. We've had 7 so far.
Well, I think that's a great place to start. Colorado Springs did 1,000 last year, and has since decided that was way too many,
Yeah.
and they're backing theirs down to a more reasonable number. But that was a lot last year to try and cover. Who else are we missing here on introductions? Angela, did we
Angela, have you
already?
gone yet?
Yeah.
Oh,
Go ahead.
actually, yeah. Actually, the reason why I had to step out earlier was because of one of our programs that we have done to kind of encourage Good Neighbor Week is we have started a lending library for neighborhoods who want to do their own block parties. So each neighborhood doesn't have to buy all the supplies that they need, but they can come and borrow things. So I was just getting a speaker for someone who is having a picnic in the park this weekend, as their neighborhood is. Um, and so, as Laura had mentioned, there's National Night Out, which is something that we do here in Springfield. But a lot of neighborhoods were wanting to do a smaller version of that where they could really reach their neighborhoods. So they started doing Neighborhood Night Out, which a lot of them have now combined with Missouri Good Neighbor Week. And so, what I do from my side is more of the supportive services and planning and helping to connect them with our sponsors that we have. So I keep a list of organizations that have donated things in the past, where we have like Ozark Mountain Popcorn Company. They will donate free popcorn to all those events. And Culver's will come and give away custard. And so we have kind of encouraged neighborhoods to break down and do smaller events for Good Neighbor Week. And then on that very hot first Tuesday of August, we also do National Night Out, which doesn't align with Good Neighbor Week, but we usually try to plug some things there as well. But from my end, I usually do more of the supportive services in neighborhoods where they are planning their events.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, Angela, and you probably heard a lot of that when you were at Noosa too. That when we do big events like at parks, sometimes it can become um, more focused on entertainment than on connection,
Right.
whereas those neighborhood centered events really help build that connection, which is really what you're wanting to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And in those
Depends on the size,
large,
depends on the size of town a little bit too on
sure.
this, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But you'll see, people break up into their small groups when you have large events. But then when you have those smaller events, you see people come together and really meet their neighbors. And so it's always really cool getting to see them branch off and do their own smaller events where they're really able to meet their neighbors that live across the street or maybe live a few streets away.
Yeah.
Um, And I'm sure, David, you can talk a little bit about like our citywide efforts of how we did what we did last year for Good Neighbor Week, citywide for Springfield. And then we always have all around the city with those smaller groups.
Yes, yes.
Angela,
Um,
are you with the library system? I'm sorry, I
oh,
missed.
Oh my goodness, I did not introduce myself. I work for a community partnership of the Ozarks here in Springfield.
Okay,
So we're a nonprofit, and I work in our community and neighborhood development division. So I work directly with neighborhoods.
and I think in terms of introductions, we still have one to go, don't we, Deanna?
Yes, we do.
Amen. Let
My,
say,
my name
saved
is
you for
Dina
last.
Dohagan. I work for MU Extension in St. Charles County as the Extension Engagement Specialist. And I'm just going to go over a couple of ways I've involved myself with neighboring events.
Hmm.
So March 20th was our annual dinner, and that was also Mr. Rogers Day. So we chose the theme for as neighboring for our annual meeting. So I had found several quotes of Mr. Rogers and printed them, and then I set them all on the tables in the thing that you can like a clip that you would put a photograph in and set on the table. So that's how we decorated, with all Mr. Rogers quotes, and then we had people read some of them during the meeting. And I had in our PowerPoint, I had a couple Mr. Rogers things and just talked about neighboring in general and mentioned Good Neighbor Week, even though that was back in March. So I'm sure you all know that David does Becoming an Engaged Neighbor presentation as one of the many pieces of the neighboring program. And he does that primarily in Southwest Missouri. I am presenting a similar program using his PowerPoint, his original PowerPoint as a base, but then whatever community I'm in, I update it for that community. Like I include pictures and just information about that community. So I get asked all over the place to do the Becoming an Engaged Neighbor program, and is one of my favorite programs. I have fun doing it. I've been had a couple of articles written up in the paper in the communities that I've done that program in, and people keep asking for it. One of the groups that ask around here is Habitat for Humanity. They are building a complex with individual homes, but it's still a Habitat for Humanity thing. And so they're requiring that all their residents, the buyers, go through my Becoming an Engaged Neighbor presentation. I'm getting ready to hire an intern here for a couple months, summer intern, and I'm going to have her heavily promote Engaged Neighbor Week or Good Neighbor Week, and to try to get St. Charles County on the map for having some good neighbor deeds
Yeah,
reported. Because
yeah.
like David said, I see all kinds of things in my home community of Warren County and then here in St. Charles County, but no one, not a lot of people report them. So we're going to try to get a lot of publicity out so people actually report them. Some of our council members, I mentioned Good Neighbor Week and Good Neighbor Deeds at every council meeting that we have. And so some of our council members went to the city of St. Peter's and said, hey, do you know right here in town, you've got this good neighbor thing. So the city of St. Peter's did a proclamation and gave to us and then presented it at a council meeting. So that was kind of cool. Another thing I do is it's really not exactly related to neighboring, but it's become a neighboring thing. I do an event called Christmas Cards for Soldiers Serving Overseas. And I work with a group called Heroes Care, and they send these cards out in their care packages. So last year I collected 5,000 cards, and I just set up random events. But then people started contacting me to say, hey, I want to do that. Can you come here and do that? Or can we come to your office? Well, what I'm finding is that when people that have registered for it, they bring neighbors. They'll bring 2 or 3 of their neighbors to do it. So it's really become, it's an event, a standalone event on its own, but it leads to some neighboring activity. And then
Mm.
I only got 2 more things to go. I started having a block party a few years ago, and I resurrected a block party that happened in my neighborhood long before I ever came along. But I've been there 21 years, and I've done several block parties now. And some of our neighbors are in their 90s. One is 97. And between my family and the surrounding neighbors, we really look out for those people. But you learn more about them coming to the block party, and then they trust you, this relationship develops, and so we're really all able to be better neighbors just because of the block party. And then I have a blog too. It's not as extensive as David's blog, and it's not research based. I just go out to people and say, hey, if you have an example of a good neighbor deed that you've done for someone or they've done for you, report it to me and I'll put it on my blog. So I bring that up at every council meeting, and occasionally people write me and say, this happened to me or I did this. And then I put some of my own examples in there, but it's a blog that I publish here and there. And then we have a quarterly newsletter at our council, and so I try to always put something about either our Becoming an Engaged Neighbor program or just some neighboring thing. But what I know that I really need to work on is an actual event that's focused on that week to bring publicity to it. So I'm looking for ideas from you all to see what you're doing as a project that really shines for Good Neighbor Week, because I just try to do stuff all year long and I want to focus on something for that time frame.
Yeah, that's a great recap and a lot of great examples out of St. Charles County and that side of the state. And you mentioned um, plans. I see the screen behind you for creating entrepreneurial communities, which is going to be in Excelsior Springs, right smack dab in the middle of Missouri Good Neighbor Week. Um, and I think there'll be at least one neighboring focused presentation at that. Um, but what other this is a great time then to start our kind of sharing idea generation and stuff. What are some of you, what questions do you have? What things are you thinking about for 2025? What advice do you have based on past experience?
Dina mentioned signs, or somebody mentioned putting signs in the park. And I think that would be great if we had a uniform looking sign that cities can order, that has the state logo that says Missouri Good Neighbor Week 2025. I really like that black Missouri state logo with the yellow.
Yeah,
If we had a uniform design that we could order signs to put in our city would be great.
I can certainly provide the logo to anyone who wants to do signage. Um, as a one-person shop, I have some limitations, and our county council had looked at doing signs, and wow, the price on those runs up in a hurry. I don't know how many of those you've priced before. Um, uh, I'm pulling up my report here to see the numbers. Um, we tried to use someone locally, but they were almost twice as expensive as what we had on Vistaprint.
I'm going to
Um,
say averages $10 to $12 per sign.
yes, that's what it was locally. We were able to get it down to 6 at Vistaprint. Um, but like if we were doing the printing, then we would have the additional cost of shipping it to everyone and stuff. I am happy to share that logo. Um, if any community wants to do signs, wants to use that on their sign, maybe you have a local way to produce them more effectively, more cost effectively. Um, the report I sent out that had the Greene County plan has a couple of signs on the back of that our council created, and none of those include the official logo for Missouri Good Neighbor Week, however. Um, some things they were looking at doing just on a very limited basis, like 100 signs, starting with that. Maybe other thoughts on that instead of,
I put that logo, the Missouri Good Neighbor Week thing, September 28th to October 4th. I put that in every PowerPoint I do. No matter what my PowerPoint's about, that's in there.
yeah,
So I'm just looking at it right now. I'm doing a grant workshop on community engagement, a factor of grant. You got to know people to do grants, and so I just put that in there as here. Here's one way to get to know people in
a
your
reminder.
neighborhood and businesses. So I just use it in every single PowerPoint I do.
Elaine, I don't know if Elaine is still on. Her video is off. I know she may have bandwidth issues there, but There's Elaine. You mentioned the movie that you've done in Houston, Missouri. Can you tell us a little more about that? How has attendance been for that? What sort of discussion or impact do you think that has had when you've done the movies?
Well, Good Neighbor Week falls during football season. And so we always tried to do the Friday night video. And that was always, I think the last time we did it, it was also homecoming night at football. But we
Mm,
have about, 45 to 50 that will come and do that. So and we have the Melba Theater, so we advertise it there. And when we go to signage, we have 63, US 63 comes right through our town. We have lots of businesses that have signs, and some are movable signs and things, the banks and all. And we just ask them, and the hospital has a huge visual sign that is live, or I don't know what kind of sign you call it, but it moves and things. But we just ask all of the community, just put something on there about good neighbor and good neighbor week, or good neighbor things that's going to happen this week. And of course, our local newspaper has things in it all the time. But we talk about it, and I think when you come through, that that is happening. Also, we have sponsors that help pay for our roses. Well, when we started about 15 years ago, there was about 5 or 6 sponsors. Well, now then that this little card goes to everybody, I think we had 26 sponsors last year. There's people always calling and wanting to know, well, how can I do it? And give us $100 or 200 or something like that. But I would certainly use any sign, any business to have them advertise Good Neighbor Week, and they'll put it up maybe that week or the week before or something that's going to happen. But we just have a real good sponsorship through our whole town, because we know that it goes individually into homes and to people and helps their business.
yeah, that's a great point.
But,
It takes a little bit of hustle with those businesses to get them to use their
oh,
sign in that way, but I mean, it's a great local resource that doesn't cost anything
no,
to get that
we
done.
have so many that are willing to help
That's
if we
great.
just ask.
Yeah, just ask.
That is an amazing idea because I never even thought about partnering with businesses to help advertise, because having those physical signs really helps ensure that you're reaching like every person, which advertising on social media is great, but not everyone has social media. And so we've started doing like neighborhood mailings to make sure every person gets one, but that adds up quick where it's a couple hundred
Hmm.
dollars for each neighborhood of 1,000 people. And so it never even occurred to me asking businesses if they wanted to advertise it on their signs. Like that is such an amazing idea. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, I could go down through town. If you come through 63, you'll go to Pizza Hut, and there'll be Walmart, and there's Boomgars, State Farm, the hospital, Walmart. Then we have Subway and all of that.
Lots
If
of them
you're
with
coming
signs.
through,
Yeah,
sure, there are lots of signs, and all, they're going to put something up different every week anyhow. And so if they're at one of our sponsors, they're really glad to do it. They also help sponsor and put it in their advertisement in the paper and the messenger and some of the other horse traders things. They'll put something about it if we ask them.
yeah. Leverage that for sure.
Sure.
What other types of things are people looking at for this year or
In the past, we've done
ideas?
block parties. We partnered with KY3 to host block parties. We did that 2 years ago. Did not do that last year. And I'm not sure if we're planning to do that this year, but we had some pretty good success with that, with people coming out. Folks came to our parks in the close to their neighborhoods and enjoyed some programming by KY3 and snacks and games and things like that. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, KY3 promoted last year more that sort of like driveway party, your local
Yeah.
neighborhood party idea, which we
Mhm.
didn't have. I think we had 12 or 14 register to do that. I don't know if we've hit on the perfect idea in Springfield yet or not.
I came to your block
But
party.
yes, you did. You should show up for one. That's right. And I see that Hannah has hopped on with City of Springfield. Uh, and Hannah is a planner for the city, but works heavily in the uh, area, neighborhood services and things. Hannah, this is your moment to shine. One, we want you to introduce yourself, and but two, I'd love to hear what ideas you've been thinking about. If you have some thoughts about what could work for Missouri Good Neighbor Week in Springfield or beyond.
Well, thanks, David. Sorry I was late, guys. You know, one neighborhood problem leads to a neighborhood meeting. So here I am, talking more about neighborhoods, which I love. We have our Neighborhood Advisory Council, which is a group of our registered neighborhood representatives that meet regularly. They meet every other month. And so I haven't had the chance yet, David, to ask you about it, but we were hoping that during Missouri Good Neighbor Week, we actually have a neighborhood advisory council meeting that week. So maybe using that as an opportunity to celebrate the organizations that we have and how regularly they've been meeting and supporting and encouraging one another. Maybe making that meeting into more of a celebration than our regular meeting, doing something a little more special. Um,
Yeah,
since we're fortunate that that just happens upon that day this year. That's kind of what's been bouncing around my head because I'm so involved with that group. Um,
that that's a great idea. That takes advantage of an asset you already have in place.
yeah, yeah, I think we'd have a bring more light to the work that you do, David, and just generally remind people that what they're doing is great and they're really uh, impacting our community in many ways.
It's those individual connections and things. And it can be simple things. Um, Last article I had in Springfield Daily Citizen was about a lady in Springfield, right? You maybe read about Karen who moved to Springfield and starting a little walking club in her neighborhood because she didn't know anybody and she wanted to build connections, and how that little walking club has kind of taken on a life of its own in that neighborhood and built connections for so many seniors that were lonely and disconnected, and how that has changed her life very positive. But somebody had to take the first step. Someone had to be the organizer of it. So how do we encourage more people to do that, to take that first step?
Yeah, and I think that that's something that's really inspiring. You know, that is what impacts me the most is when I hear those personal stories of, you know, I didn't know anybody and I went out of my comfort zone and I knocked on my neighbor's door and asked them to go for a walk and talk and get to know each other. I think using any opportunity we can to share those stories is hugely important. And Melissa
Yes,
does a great job of with our neighborhood newsletter, sharing those
abs
stories too.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Tina, I see your question in chat, and the first year we did a training, but I've not done one since that. Um, I am happy to provide resources for anyone who ask, and logos and so forth. I'm not sure the training was particularly helpful, but I'm certainly willing to coach over Zoom or whatever if people, if you have somebody in mind or a group that wants to generate some ideas of things to do during the week. That seemed like maybe a little more helpful than a set training per
Okay.
se.
Good. So, you know, really we can, Laura and I could encourage all our cities in Clay County to participate, and there's no requirement or good faith in what exactly they'll do, you know, requirement or.
No, there's we try to because of the sponsorship we have and because of Extension's mission, we try to provide those things free of charge. Um, there will be your question reminds me I need to complete the 2025 folder on Google Drive of the logos and content that we make available for people to download and use free of charge. Um, I send a letter out every year to city managers across the state, encouraging their city involvement.
Oh,
Um, uh,
When do you
We
do
do.
that, David, so that maybe we could tag on kind of with some
Well,
awareness?
I can tell you I'm a week behind my self-imposed deadline, so it should have it should be getting out uh soon here in the next week or two. I'll use a mailing service here in Springfield, but I
Okay.
um have been behind on getting that done. Um, what else? Um, you know, there, um, I'm certainly happy to provide lists of other things that people have done if that's helpful in idea generation. Um, I think oftentimes that's the most helpful is what have other people tried, what have other people had success with, or found people interested in doing in their community, and provide that through Google Drive. And of course, the website itself has some information on it. It has a 101 ideas for acts of neighboring on that on our Missouri Good Neighbor Week website. That may provide you some ideas. There's some other guides on there that might be helpful. And um, and then of course on that site you can go ahead and start nominating people for Missouri's Most Engaged Neighbor. Anyone who's nominated gets a letter letting them know they've been nominated, which is meant to be encouraging. And they also get a memento for that, for being nominated. And then the statewide winners are announced during the week of Missouri Good Neighbor Week. So it's not too early to start promoting in your community or in your groups this idea of nominating people who are engaged neighbors. I think that's an important part of it as well. In Springfield this year, Greene County, we're going to try a couple of movies. Partnered with a community theater in downtown, the Moxie, and we're going to start the week with a movie called Leap of Faith. This is the documentary, not the one with Steve Martin in it. Do not confuse the two. And we're doing that in partnership with the Interfaith Council, Springfield Interfaith Council. And we have 100 seats. We're doing it free. Um, we got a sponsor to help pay for the cost of the movie. And so we think that's a good way to kick off Missouri Good Neighbor Week, get people thinking about what it means to be a good neighbor, to be an engaged neighbor. Then we'll have some discussion after we screen that movie at that event. We did something like that similar with the documentary Join or Die, and we were able to fill the theater up twice. So we anticipate being able to fill it up for that. And then we're going to end the week with a screening of A Man Named Otto, which is based on the book A Man Named Uve, but Man Named Otto with Tom Hanks, which is certainly about loneliness and the impact of neighbors. And at the same theater, free of charge, discussion to follow. That's two of the new things we're adding uh, in Springfield this year. Other ideas in your communities or questions you'd like to pitch to the group?
I would
Thank you.
recommend the Springfield folks reach out to Greene County Senior Service Fund. Chuck Marinick is the board chair, I believe, but I can see them being interested in partnering in some way.
We have worked with them in the past on some different programs. So yeah.
It's a good idea.
He may not like it when he sees us recording.
Other ideas?
Kind of interested in
Question.
hearing how everyone, I guess, stores all the information of when they're planning these events. Like, do you keep it all in your brain and just kind of pass down the historic knowledge? Have you created a little like guide for yourself of, okay, here's what we do each year and how we reach out to? I'm just curious on how everyone stays on top of that.
I kind of just have like an ongoing document that I update every year with notes from, well, of course, we're only second year in, but for Excelsior Springs, but notes of what we did last year and at the end of the week, I made notes, okay, this is what I want to do different, or here's a new idea I heard. So I just have an ongoing document.
Angela, I've started more in recent years using Google Drive to file a lot of my stuff away. It's easily accessible. That's why I like. But my drive gets pretty cluttered pretty quickly. I'm not sure I have it organized the best, but uh, it's accessible.
We have different things that we've done each year. And we had a new person that came in charge of it last year, so we had to kind of bring them up to date. But our community betterment meets once a month, and so we do various things around town. And that's always something we have in our notes and our minutes, and this is what we're going to do. And then somebody new will come along, and so we bring them up to date. And we, try a few different things each year to see how we can get more people to participate. But it's kind of like a tradition, and somewhere along the line, somebody will ask, "Well, what did you do last year or year before?" And some of us that are old, we kind of bring them up to date, but we do refer back to what's happened in the past. And when you bring somebody, you want to always bring somebody new on board, or who's going to carry on after you. So I think we have a community betterment record of what we have done and have been doing. And then we always toss around, and I come to meetings like this to find out new things. I'm really interested in the scavenger hunt that someone mentioned before, because uh, we also have Emmett County Festival Days that brings the community out in May. And we also have a fall festival that brings the community together too. It's after Good Neighbor time. But we're always looking for ideas, and we're having a run and this and that and something that goes along with it and involve little kids and big kids, and we have a community kindergarten circus and things like that. So we refer to our newspaper to keep us up to date too.
Yeah.
I have a question about university extension programs. So can we assume that all the extensions across the state of Missouri are willing partners to help promote these events and support in some ways? I'm sure maybe different extensions have various resources, not all of them, but what's your thought on engaging across the university extensions?
Yeah, the county resources are varied from state to state, but that should not stop you from uh, asking or making those county contacts. Every county extension council is its own political subdivision, and they have their own governing council. And so some counties have been all in on this, some have been more reluctant participants. Um, but it's worth asking, and sometimes it comes down to getting the interest of someone who serves on the council, or the council seeing that there's someone in the community that is interested and wants to partner. I think that goes a long ways. So the fact that you're asking and expressing an interest, um, I think does a lot to um, get them to engage, to do more. So certainly, most of them, they're not flush with big budgets. So it's not necessarily a sponsorship in that way, but certainly joining of minds and thinking about how you can do something collectively. I think there's power in that for sure. When possible, I'm kind of a big proponent of from the book Multipliers. This idea is I have a limited capacity of what I can do. What can I do to multiply my efforts by getting others to take ownership or to have an interest in the topic? So while I can host a driveway party in my neighborhood, or this year we're doing a longer table is what it's called actually, which is a potluck, everybody seated at a table face to face, so you have to have discussion. Um, I can do that in my neighborhood. I can't do that in every neighborhood in Springfield, but I can do that in my neighborhood. And so who do I know? How do I encourage others to do something similar? And in that way have a multiplying effect. Well, I know we're getting close to the noon hour. Any other ideas that people want to share that you're working on? I'll keep uh, the group that's in this list. I'll certainly provide the Google files too, and beyond what I've put in the chat. But
I
in
just, oh, sorry. I
Yeah,
just
go
want
ahead.
to remind everyone that first Wednesday of October is also National Coffee with a Cop Day. So that's a great day to get your police involved. And it already wraps into the week. So that's one of our existing events that we're going to wrap into Good Neighbor Week as well. And we just have our police officers go to different coffee shops around town that morning for a couple hours, just chat with people that are already going to get coffee. And then we also have annually we have a food truck event with yard games, food
Hmm.
trucks, and live music that Friday night of that week. So it's really convenient that it happens during Good Neighbor Week already. So that's how we're wrapping that stuff in there. And then I think we're gonna just encourage people to do their own front porch parties or block parties. And we last year we didn't have time to put anything in our city magazine, but our fall issue of our city magazine that goes to 11,400 Raymore addresses, it will be front and center because it'll come out the first week of or the beginning of September. So it'll be a little bit of notice for everyone to get their own kind of things going for Good Neighbor Week and encourage participation.
Yeah, I love that you're already thinking about how to leverage the things you already have in place. I love that, the food truck idea and so Coffee with a Cop is on October 1.
It's always on the first Wednesday of October, so it should almost always be during Good Neighbor Week, I would think.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will. All right. Well, I will follow up with the group with link to the Google Drive and a link to the letter that's being sent to city administrators. But feel free to ask questions back on that. If there's any way I can be of help, I'm glad to, and I know others that are in this group would be glad to help or make the connection as well. I really appreciate the fact that you're an opinion leader, a thought leader in this area, and that you jumped on board early into the process and are advocates for not just our quality neighborhoods, but also for Missouri Good Neighbor Week. So thank you to each of you for your involvement, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being on here today.
Thanks, everyone.